Change is hard. It's just fundamentally hard for people who have a set of beliefs about things needing to be done the way they are done today, because that's the way they've been done. Totally understand and empathize with that. But we've seen change all throughout human history, and we've seen exploration of all sorts that have led to any number of the innovations that have empowered humans to do better at being humans. The coming changes around artificial intelligence, around the tools that provide, we're the last generation that grew up in a world that didn't have an internet. And this new generation that's always had it there, they're going to react very differently to change than you and I would.
Mm. Hello and welcome to At the Podium with me, Patrick Huey. At the Podium is a multimedia platform where story by story, we explore the resiliency of the human spirit with people who are using their own personal journeys to leave a positive and transformative imprint on our world today. At the Podium holds a space for meaningful conversation, inspiration, and life. Today, I'm thrilled to share the podium with Eric Litman. Eric Litman is the founder and CEO of Aescape, the company advancing robotics for better living. With a rich history of entrepreneurial success, founding and exiting 4 companies, Eric is at the forefront of harmonizing technology and human care. At Aescape, he's building the world's first commercially viable, fully automated AI massage experience, giving more people control of their self-care. Eric's journey reflects a dedication to pioneering wellness solutions that are setting new standards in personalized wellness robotics. Eric, welcome to At the Podium.
Patrick, it's a delight to be here with you. Thank you for having me aboard.
It is a pleasure to talk to you. You and I met about 2 years ago in Scottsdale, Arizona, at a conference, and you were there learning about the hospitality and spa industries because you were at that time in production ideation around a piece of equipment, a solution, we would call it, around robotic massage. And in April of 2024, I had the pleasure, the privilege of experiencing what you had been talking about when we first met 2 or 3 years ago. And I remember getting off the table and saying, the spa industry, the massage industry has just changed for the better from my perspective. And that led me to wonder, who is this person who is in the midst of disrupting a $21 billion industry with this solution that you and your team have created? And then I went online and found a couple of things that you said, and I was like, oh, this is kind of explaining who he is. One thing that you said was, hi, I'm a tech entrepreneur working in healthcare, a dad of 2 awesome humans, a huge fan of risk takers, and a lover of insanely spicy food. Drop me a line if you want to talk about changing the world. And then the second thing that you said that I found online was that you render the hitherto non-existent blindingly obvious. And so I wanted to know from the start, how are you even able to envision this solution, this device in your mind's eye? Because once you've done it, and now that I've seen it, it is of course obvious. And why did you feel the need to do this?
Well, that's a fun introduction. Thank you for that. Um, Interestingly, I don't think of what we're doing as particularly disruptive. I think what we're doing is a complement. And I think it's in many ways a very useful and perhaps even necessary complement to the industry. But I don't think the industry needs to or will stop working in the way that it does today, which is sort of the traditional definition of a disruptor. What I do believe is that we present an opportunity for the industry to move in other directions at the same time and to provide a solution that can work side by side today with the way therapists work to reach a whole different set of consumer needs. So,
Mm,
as I thought about this, and I came from my own personal journey, which led me to this, the intent in coming into market really was to fill a void that I saw. And the void was I really wanted hyper specificity. I wanted just the thing that I wanted. And the thing that I wanted isn't necessarily something that a therapist would want to do for me or is even necessarily capable of doing for me. That may be good, it may be bad, but it's the thing that I want. And I like self-determinism. And it turns out through our consumer research, we found that there were a whole lot of other people out there that also want very much what they want. That's
Mm.
not in any way at conflict with the curation that happens in industry today. And I think the two of those can exist very well together.
So before we go any further, I think we should explain to people who are watching or listening what Escape is, what we're about to talk about.
Okay, let's do that. So we have built a product that automates great massage. It's a table, beautifully designed, intended to fit into spa environments, into gyms, corporate office amenities, country clubs, multifamily dwellings, professional sports teams, collegiate teams, the sorts of places where you might anticipate massage would exist today. And it's operated in a manner that's both familiar to the industry and remarkably familiar to consumers when they experience it. The table has a suite of sensors that scan your body and create a model that personalizes and hyper personalizes a massage to your body. You wear technically designed fabric that feel great and just make the environment work really well for you. You're in deep control of the experience through a big, beautiful touchscreen beneath the headrest as you're laying on the table. And you have the ability to book your massage on demand through a booking experience that feels very much like something you booked through before. It's going to feel like an Uber or Resi type experience that then will know and remember you. So no matter which escape table you go to anywhere around the world, there's longevity to the relationship. The table automatically adjusts. If you're on a massage journey and you're on session number 4 of 7, it'll go right to number 4. If you've told us over time that you like particular pressures on certain parts of the body and not others, it will remember you and follow you continuously. And it's again, it's both very familiar because it's been trained by massage therapists, and yet it's something uniquely different.
So you said a couple of things that I think are pretty interesting. One thing that I was surprised about when I was having the experience, and I wasn't skeptical of it. I didn't come to it with that sort of lens, but I was really wanting to see what it could do and how it could approximate the human touch when I was laying on the table. Because for a lot of people, that human touch is a critical piece of their wellness experience, their massage experience. And I understand that not everybody wants to be touched by another person for many different reasons. So that's operating here. But I was really surprised by the evenness of the experience. I was also really surprised by the specificity of the experience, that it was actually keying into parts of my body where I traditionally hold tension or that are currently inflamed from stress or sitting too long at work. It was specifically going into those different points of my body with what I thought was reasonably good pressure. It wasn't too deep, it wasn't too light, but it still felt incredibly connected and therapeutic. And it didn't feel like a bunch of arms just descending on me out of nowhere and touching my body. I'm curious, and don't give away the technology, obviously, but how did you create that? Because that to me is the X factor in the whole experience.
It's been a mix of very hard work from a lot of very smart people. So it all
Mhm.
started from roboticists figuring out how to make robots move in a way that feels safe and comfortable in an automated, unattended environment. It's a
Mhm.
really hard set of problems to solve. It then evolved over time to being less about technology and much more about interaction. And so we have a team of massage therapists that help both inform the protocols and create the massage content itself. There's a process here in a lab where therapists will put sensors on their body and they'll do body work on people here that then works to train the robots. And you feel the essence of each of the therapists come through when their massages make their way into the system.
And this robot can learn because you said if I'm on treatment 5, it can pick up where it left off on me.
The idea is that over time, this really becomes something you can uniquely only get out of the escape environment because we'll be learning from you and we'll be learning from every treatment given across every one of the tables.
I can imagine a barrier to entry to this for many people is that they associate a human with what you're describing. And also, you're sort of walking into this discussion that we're having now in our culture about where are the limits of AI, technology, and robots in our world. And we all jump to, Keanu Reeves and Matrix and those types of experiences. And is this real and machines and all of that? But where do you stand on that? Because this is really, I know you don't think it's disrupting, but it is from my perspective. But where do you stand in that conversation? And how do you take those principles and then apply them to this idea of wellness that's a lot of times associated with the human to human connection and interaction and empathy, which can a robot have empathy?
Mhm. Change is hard. It's just fundamentally hard to people and for people who have a set of beliefs about things needing to be done the way they are done today because that's the way they've been done. Totally understand and empathize with that. But we've seen change all throughout human history, and we've seen exploration of all sorts that have led to any number of the innovations that have empowered humans to do better at being humans. What we've built is a tool. We have built a tool for people to give themselves great care, and we've built a tool for innovative massage therapists and others to incorporate automated solutions into their own practices. I think the real opportunity here is to embrace change because all around us, we have shifting consumer attitudes towards a desire for more self-determinism in their own interactions. We see this in grocery stores where we opt to self-checkout and other categories throughout. And because improved tooling can help us to potentially deliver greater outcomes. Like, what a wonderful thing for a massage therapist to be able to measure the efficacy of the work that they've done. We're not there yet. We're headed down that path, and we can be a tool that they can integrate into their practice so that it's not just the anecdote of, wow, I feel so much better. Thank you. You delivered to me a service that nobody else has been able to do, and you fixed
Mhm.
my body. It's that plus the metrics that say, and here's how it happened along the way. And as we've seen in many areas of healthcare and healthcare related services, there's an evolution of a lot of roles towards more of a care coordinator than a direct hands-on caregiver. And
Mhm.
that just presents the opportunity for more intentional interactions with your clients. It presents the opportunity for greater career longevity because you're doing less of the hard physical work and opportunities to create new relationships and even new revenue streams along the way.
How do you define wellness
Ooh,
in your lexicon?
ooh,
Because you're again you're sticking the robotic arm into the wellness space. So I wonder what you define wellness as and how you view it.
it's a good question. It's a really good question. And where do the lines of wellness blur with healthcare?
Mm.
And and does it really matter as wellness becomes more pervasive, the desire for wellness becomes more pervasive among people? I don't have a great answer to it, but I do think that the interests of people at large in living better, in living longer, and being more present in their lives for the things that they love and the people they love has only grown over time. And I think the boundaries of what it means to provide a service that's going to make you well, that's going to make you mentally healthier, or it's going to make you physically healthy will all continue to meld into a journey that really is represented by health span as the metric.
Mm. I think about it because I live in Los Angeles, and it's not uncommon to see the robots delivering food to people's homes. And it's amazing how quickly your mind adjusts to seeing that. I mean, the first time you see it, it's like a little R2D2 walking along the streets of Los Angeles. But pretty soon, it's just part of the visual landscape of your life as you're moving through the city here. The one thing that I thought about the table and the experience, I felt that, and something you said just now sparked it, and that more people are looking for solutions around their health and well-being than just people who can afford to go to a spa and spend $300 on a massage or a facial. And the one thing that really got me excited about the experience I had was I felt like, oh, this could democratize people's access to these types of experiences that right now kind of exist in a very much, if you can afford it, you can have it, but if not, well, you know, drink lots of water and walk, which is very important.
Yeah.
Um, but I thought there was a nature there's a part of this that may or may not have been what you intended. That is, this could democratize health and well-being for many more people than have access to it now.
A key tenet behind what we're doing is that more people getting more access to massage therapy more regularly can only be a good thing. And there are a number of barriers to break down. There's availability, just kind of helping to cover some of the labor gap that exists today,
Mhm.
convenience, and cost. Those are very much at the top of the list. We're doing our best to break down barriers in each of those, and we can't solve them all at once. And there's a lot to do ahead, but I love the idea of continuing to democratize this as a service. And I think as we just look at the price performance curve of all the technologies that come into making something like ours, we're on a path to being able to bring this to more and more people by bringing costs down and making it even more broadly available.
You said something in Fast Company that I loved on so many levels. You said, the one thing I've consistently seen entrepreneurs do that has significant measurable impact on everything they do, more than any other factor, is manage their relationships and manage their social capital. Folks that do that really well are bound to find some measure of success in some area of their life. It may not be the course they set initially, but there's invariably some positive that comes from it. So I've made it a point throughout my own endeavors to continue to find ways to improve my own ability to manage and maintain relationships and to learn from others. And so there are a couple things here that I think are very interesting based upon what we're talking about. One, oftentimes I feel like we look at technology and let's go to the moon and let's leave the earth as a way to get away from human connection, or a way
Mm.
to get away from the challenges that we face as people living, having a human experiences together at this time, at this point on the planet. But you are talking about that the successful people actually don't run from that. They actually lean into those relationships and the people that people their world. And the second thing that I loved about what you said was this idea that your success may not look the way that you intended it to look. But if you have this human relationship with people, it is a good foundation to build any kind of success on. And I thought about you because I was shocked to find, though not really shocked is probably the right adjective, but it was interesting to see that you finished high school at 15, very young. And I'm like, why did you finish school at 15? And when you finished school at 15, what did you think your life was going to look like? Was it this idea of being a serial entrepreneur?
I I had no idea what it was going to be. I've been around technology since I was very, very young. My stepmother was a researcher at a government contractor in Southern California, and she worked on early AI systems for guiding all sorts of flighted vehicles. And she'd bring home a little box, and I'd play with it and connect to the internet. In the earliest days of the internet, a teletype with a 30 baud modem and an acoustic coupler. And those early experiences shaped my comfort and familiarity with technology. And there was a time, I think I was about 9 years old, living in Southern California, that a friend of mine and I started up a detective agency. We put a sign up in the window, and we wrote down kind of a manifesto and a document of what we were going to do and how we were going to be different from what we thought were all of the others out there. And we never got a client, but it was fun. And my father was an entrepreneur his most of his life. So I think a lot of those things shaped the inputs, but Patrick, I never had any sense of what the outputs would be.
Mm.
Um, I certainly couldn't have envisioned that I'd be here talking with you today about having built a robot fully autonomous that comes in contact with people and gives them great massages.
So when you finished high school at 15, where did you go?
To college.
To college?
Yeah. Yeah. To college, and spent a lot more time in computer labs probably than I did in class.
So in a way, this is an extension of what you know, what you were kind of exposed to. I'm not trying to overstate it, but it almost feels like this was built into you by the people, like the entrepreneurship, the technology, was sort of the atmosphere that you were breathing in growing up.
I think that's probably right. And having built a few companies prior to this one, all just generally focused on software and services and solutions for enterprise. This time around, I really wanted to do something that could have some measure of positive impact on the world. I wanted to do something tangible, something that would be, I dare use this word, but real and beneficial for the world. And this definitely checks those boxes.
There was something else in this Fast Company article that I thought was really interesting, and it has to do with this idea of leadership and how you lead people. And what you said was, for all the advances in technology, the question was, for all the advances in technology, business remains essentially about relationships and people. And you said to that, you said unequivocally, yes, the key is finding the right enabling technologies to foster the human relationships that drives the company's success. And I think right now there's a whole discussion about leadership and dearths in leadership and how do you lead people. But I think in the space that you're in, it's even doubly hard because you're asking people to believe in something doesn't exist at this point and to go on a journey with you. And I wonder how you approach this idea of leadership and leading teams and building unity around a concept that may not be easy for everyone to sort of just jump on board with
Yeah.
at the start.
Yeah. So that Fast Company article, I think, was maybe 2007, 2008.
Wow.
So I've had some time to think about leadership since then, and certainly evolved my own style. Um, you know, audacious missions, mm, they call for a certain personality type. You're a particular kind of individual who wants to work on something that's absurdly hard, that may not be accomplished, that's going to take longer than most things you've worked on to get there. And I think the defining leadership characteristic that's brought people aboard here is my own boundless, naive optimism. I'm
Mm.
like, of course we can do it. Of course we're going to get there. Fortunately, I've surrounded myself with people who are remarkably good at evaluating the data behind our actions and putting in place very clear plans that help us to test assumptions. But there has to be a good, healthy measure of belief in there. And there's no way, as we all collectively know, to measure belief.
Mm. If there is a way, I'm sure you're going to find a way to measure it. I have,
Maybe, maybe the next one.
it's interesting. You said something that I love. You're very quotable. You should make t-shirts and you have great t-shirt quotes on there. No, but this is a really great quote. You said, and this was not in Fast Company. You said, I continue to grow from the wisdom and generosity of countless others. And I wonder for you, who are those people that you are standing on the shoulders of to be where you are today? We've already talked about your parents.
I mean, I think we're now about 170 people in this company, and I would count every last one of them. I learn from them all every day.
Hmm. What do they teach you though?
Oh, everything from the practical to the foundational.
Mm.
So, I've learned an awful lot about what it takes to build a hardware and a robotics company in the last 7 years. Well, technically speaking, we're 8 days shy of 7 years as the recording of this podcast, but close enough.
Yeah.
Um, I learn a lot about human interactions as building a company like this requires that you surround yourself with remarkably bright people who are going to be strong-willed and opinionated, and you want those things to be true. And I would say I learn about myself in the process.
Mm.
I continue to evolve and try to be the very best leader for them that I can possibly be by adapting to the environment and the collective culture we've built here. I'm at a point in my life where I've had a lot of interactions with an awful lot of people along the way. I'm probably a little bit older than I might look on camera. And, you know,
Aren't we
I,
all? Aren't we all?
thanks, Zoom. And I think, as we move along the way, every interaction ultimately empowers us to learn. Sometimes we're aware of it. I think probably more often than not, we're not aware of it, but we are the product of the complexity of the lives that we live. And this moment, what we're doing here, man, is it peak complexity.
Mhm. How do you think you just said about the complexity of the lives that we live? How does what you do in this space of AI and technology and robotics, how does what you do help be a solve for the complexities that we're so much faced with in the world today? Can it do that?
Ooh. I feel like that's a different mission. I feel like what we can provide is a moment for people to find some peace and a moment for people to find some relief. If that's part of the journey of reducing the complexity of their life, I think that's wonderful.
Mm. You have had a lot of success in your life, and you've had like 4 different iterations of different businesses that you have been the brain behind or the funding behind, and I wonder, you had a lot of successes, and there's a lot of talk around that the successes are great, but the failures are where we learn the lessons and where we get the chance to grow in different ways, and I wonder for you, where those things that have not gone according to plan for you? And what did you walk away from those with?
I think the ones that are the most poignant are where I feel like I've disappointed someone else, where I haven't met my own expectations for what I perceive someone else wants. And there are plenty of those examples in work life and personal life and beyond. And I think those are the examples that at least I personally try to learn the most from. You try to minimize those as time goes by, but they still happen. And they happen ideally for different reasons as time goes by.
Mm,
I think there's some interesting optimization opportunities there, but um, yeah, I think that's probably it for me. Those are the ones that matter the most, more so than a particular moment in the progression of a business or elsewhere, because it's the human interactions that ultimately drive the ability to be successful in any situation. At least that's
mm.
my.
And because you have had a very good track record with identifying ventures that work, what in your mind, if someone comes to you and they say, I need X number of dollars because I have this idea, what are you listening for? What are you looking for to think, okay, this idea has legs? What are you looking for? What is that X factor?
I mean, the X factor is almost always the person. Are they going to be willing to walk through walls to build whatever it is that they're building? Because it's absurdly hard. And the more complex the project you're going after, the more the antibodies of the universe attack it and just won't allow it to exist. And you have to be stronger than that. You have to be able to fight your way through day by day against the objections, the failures, the misinterpretations, the complexity of building, the enthusiasm you need to maintain to convince others to join your mission, to convince partners to buy into what you're doing. It's really about the grit and determination of the founder.
Not so much the thing.
The thing is important. The thing will probably morph over time as the founder behind it gets into it. Ideally, they're going after a large market to begin with, so there's plenty of space to figure it out and twist and turn and get to a product that people are going to love. Um, I guess that's probably another important point is I think it's really important for the founder to absolutely love the product space and to know it at a significant disadvantage of others.
What is it like? I would imagine because there's all kinds of research and studies being done about how much information we have access to and the capacity and how the rate of change that we're living with today. What is it like to create in an environment where today we're talking about escape, but in 5 years that could be obsolete because X has happened on this side. So what does that do to the creative process for the entrepreneur when the shelf life of a creation or an invention is so limited by technology access and the ability to repeat something over and over and over again?
I'll tell you, it keeps things interesting.
Yes,
Uh,
and
yeah. We're at a point on the curve of life and technology right now where the compounding impact of exponential growth of technologies is being felt like it's never been felt before. It presents tremendous opportunity because there's going to be so much reinvention in almost every category of existence, from the hard sciences, or I should say, where the application of hard sciences comes to bear, all the way through to life sciences, health, entertainment, and beyond. But it also is going to keep everyone on their toes because at every moment along the progression on that curve, something new potentially comes along that could deliver the thing you've built better, faster, cheaper. It's always been the case. It's always been true, but it's exponentially more true today. So I think, being able to maintain focus and stay true to the mission of the business, build great relationships with your customers, and keep a pace with technology. Those are the fundamentals that I would recommend anyone.
the rate of you said exponentiation, I believe is the word that you used, is incredible, but it feels like the rate of growth for us as a human species has not kept pace with what we can do technologically. And that within that gap is the space for misunderstanding
Mm.
or dangerous things to happen. How do you, as a person who is leading the charge in some of these areas, reconcile that sort of unintended risk with what you do?
Every new technology that makes its way into the world gets adopted along a curve. There's a bell curve of adoption. And at the front end of the curve, you have people who are just enthusiastic. I'd like, yay, new thing. And they go after the new thing. And then they tell friends, and those friends tell other friends. And eventually market moves along the curve and people adopt a thing if it's a thing that the world wants and people have collectively decided. Plenty of things, products, services, and the like, never make it across the beginning part of that curve. And we've seen lots of examples of really exciting and or very disruptive technologies that have fallen that fate.
Mm.
Uh, Others make their way up and along it. I don't feel like today is any different. I think the nature of how we bring things into our world, how we determine whether or not something resonates with our life, I think that's all very much the same. I just think in a world that's moving faster every day, we all probably just need more massages.
Oh, yeah, we do. But I bring that up because I live in Los Angeles. I think you may be in New York. I don't, you're in New York, but technology has knocked on the door of the entertainment industry with AI and Chat GPT and all of these things. And again, it's a technology that's forever changed the industry. And now the industry doesn't know what to do because it's out there. So I think that with every advance, there is some consequence, and I don't know, and that's why I say, are we ready for all the things that can happen? Are we ready for what those ramifications are in our real lives in real time? That's the conversation, and I don't know what the answer is. Um, and you're on the side of it that's doing it. So you may have a different perspective on it.
I don't know that I have a great answer because I don't know that I think of change as being homogenous. There are changes that happen in technology, in the world, in human interactions that all have different implications to them. I think if you go to some of the specific examples you were bringing up, these are tools that are generating a lot of conversation right now, that are getting a lot of people really to think about where they fit in their lives and what it means to them. And I think that conversation is going to be going on for a long time to come.
You have two kids. Your son is just about to go off to college. How do you talk to them about this kind of stuff, or do you? Um, and what have they taught you being your kids?
So my son is a technology enthusiast, technology adopter, early adopter. Um, my daughter, she'd like the world to be a little slower and like us to be a little bit more in nature. And I think they both teach me to ground myself, but just watching how they both consume technology, because even though they're both very different people, they both incorporated technology into their lives. They're both very, very quick to adapt, quick to form opinions. And because they've been working with tech products throughout the course of their lives, they're very good consumers of technology. And they'll they'll identify the strengths and weaknesses of technological change as they encounter it. I think they're in many ways more critical than our generation might be. Like you and we may marvel at things a little bit more than they do because they've always seen these sorts of things. And Dad, wasn't it black and white TV when you grew up? And were there even cars back then? They've lived in a world where they've never not been connected to the internet. They've never
Yeah.
not seen smartphones and iPads. And so the coming changes around artificial intelligence, around the tools that provide, they've seen inklings of it all the way along. We're the last generation that grew up in a world that didn't have an internet. And this new generation that's always had it there, they're going to react very differently to change than you and I would.
Mm. In that world, is there space for spirituality, for that kind of internal barometers, or does that get stamped out the more technologically savvy we become?
I hope so. I hope people can find their own journeys.
Mm. What has been your biggest leap of faith or the biggest risk that you've taken? You say you like taking risks and spicy food. What has been that biggest risk for you? And was it worth it on the other side?
Making the decision to go off and try to build robots to go give massages when in the earliest days of this business, every roboticist I knew, everybody who built hardware that I knew, laughed at me and said that it just couldn't be done or that it shouldn't be done because it would just be too hard.
Where are we in the process with Escape? When is it going to be on the market? When can people, where can they experience it?
So we're live with a beta partner here in New York in Union Square. You can download the Escape app today, go to the Escape website. That's aescape.com. We're launching another beta partner here in New York in just a few weeks. And then we go live with some great partners in mid-July in a number of cities in the US. We're
Awesome.
really excited to roll that out.
I have one last question for you. On this season of the show, we're talking to people about what they believe or want their legacy to be. And I wonder for you, what is that?
I wouldn't have been able to have answered that question until Escape. And I think now I would love for my legacy to be that something I built had positive impact in a number of people's lives, right? That I was able to make a bit of a difference in the world.
Eric, thank you so much for your time today. I appreciate it. And I appreciate what you're doing in this industry. And overall, I really respect what you're doing. So thank you so much for today.
Thanks, Patrick. Thanks for having me on.
Of course. To those of you who are watching or listening, remember, we all have a voice. We all will leave a legacy. Use yours wisely. Bye, everyone.